Sorry, it went disconnected. It probably. Okay, now we're here.
Okay, Dirk or Gina or Matt or Secretary Gray, can you hear us in this room pretty well or decently? Okay, thumbs up. Secretary Gray. Okay. All right, thumbs up on Dirk.
I can hear you.
Okay, good. We'll start here in a moment.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Oldham County Community Center. I'm David Gold, Oldham County Executive. We're happy to have all of you here in Oldham County this morning. Way out of town, but it's getting closer all the time with the expansion of I-71. So we very much appreciate your attendance today for this, the final meeting of the year for the Transportation Policy Committee. So I'm going to ask that the roll call be.
Thank you very much. Is anybody from Bullitt County? City of Charlestown? City of J-Town? Here. Jeffersonville? New Albany? Shively? Hi, Mayor. Good to see you. One from City of St. Matthew? Mark County or Floyd County? INDOT.
You. Harley's here.
Jefferson County League of Cities. Who do we have from Kentucky Transportation Cabinet? Got all sorts of folks. So we got Secretary Gray on the screen. We've got Isidro Delgado in the room. We've got Matt Bullock in the room. We have some Jared Thomas. Full house. Can't wait to see. Thank you all for joining us today. How about Louisville Metro? I know we have several on the line. Louisville Metro.
Dirk's here.
Dirk. So Emily, hi Emily. Port Authority, Oldham County. Here. Thank you. Clarksville. Here. Thank you. And Tark. Thank you all for joining us. Advisory members, I'll note on the screen. I see Ms. Nora Cod from Federal Highways Administration And we've got KYTC District 5 staff in the room and online as well. So thank you all for joining us today out here in Old County. We have a forum, sir.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the October 22 TPC meeting minutes?
I make a motion.
Are there any corrections? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Anyone opposed? Carries. Thank you. It's our pleasure now to introduce and welcome to our meeting in Oldham County via Zoom, the Secretary Jim Gray from KYTC, Mr. Secretary. Happy to have you with us here today, and we're looking forward to your comments. And wish you could be here in person, but you can only do one place at one time. So Zoom is a great way to have you here. So welcome.
Was that a cue to start?
Yes, sir.
Can you all hear me? Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right,
Yes,
all
sir.
right. Well, I'm having a little trouble, Andy, hearing the conversation there, but if it's ready to go, then
Go ahead, sir.
trying to get a microphone. Okay.
Secretary, we can hear you very well. We're gonna get a microphone. to make
If you
sure
can,
whoever's-
okay, if you can hear me, then I'll just rock and roll here.
All
Well,
right.
I wanted to start out by thanking you all for giving me a chance to visit with you this morning. I wanted to talk a bit about what the cabinet is doing. That's what I was asked to do, and I think that would be for familiarity with for all of you. But first, I want to start out by saying thanks for your public service in every respect. Everyone who's around the table, everyone who's on the virtual call today, just a big thanks, shout out for your public service. I spent 8 years as mayor of Lexington, 4 years on the city council before that, and I learned a lot. In fact, I routinely say that, folks in the private sector don't really get it when they think the public sector is slow to get things done. We're actually, in the public sector, you're bringing so many constituencies together, you're pulling and you're trying to gain consensus on issues. And very much in that sense, we all know that it's a very fast pace that we work under. The NPOs especially, I think, have a major role, and especially, of course, in long-term planning. When I was on our NPO when I was the Central Kentucky, of course, the Lexington area, Fayette, Jessamine, when I was vice mayor. And that really acquainted me with so much of transportation issues in our area. And I know that that's the same for you all. I want to give a special shout out to Mikhail Pelfrey, who works as a liaison, and our District 5 folks, Matt Bullock, who work so closely with you all. And also to Amanda Spencer, who I've found to be a really amazing person and extraordinarily talented to work with. So I thought what I would do today in about 5 to 7 minutes is just give you all a roundup in a sense of what we're doing in the cabinet today. There's a lot, of course, going on. I also should mention my counterpart in Indiana, Mike Smith, who I've gotten to work with and gotten to know well. And as is always the case, when you have a good working relationship, you can actually get things done. And I feel like that's where we are, especially with Indiana today. We've got the same thing going on with Ohio, with a project that some of you all may have heard about called the Brent Spence Bridge. In any event, what I wanted to share today was, as I said already, what's just going on. And I want to talk about safety and complete streets. I want to talk about what's going on in the cabinet beyond our traditional boundaries, and that is disaster recovery, because that's becoming more of an expected performance, more of an expected routine, regrettably, in the work of our cabinet. And then I want to talk about electric vehicles and our new initiative or when I say new, last couple of years, for real ID issuance and driver's licensing. So first on safety and complete streets. When I came into this job, I had a sense that we could make some improvements. Of course, public safety, the driving public is an enormous priority, and we have enormous dedication to it. What we felt like we could lift up, elevate, was our commitment to the safety of our own frontline employees. The cabinet has 4,400 employees today, roughly. Of that amount, 3,600 are in the Department of Highways. That's spread all across, those employees are of course spread all across our state. And these are the folks that are out on the road doing often the jobs that, often very dangerous jobs and roles. I was just passing some this morning who were doing trash cleanup. Now, some of these are our contractors, of course, but excuse me. But we want to give attention, and we want to give an intentional effort and deliberate effort. And that's what we did by creating the office, the Secretary's Office of Safety. Right now, today, we have significant concerns, of course, about fatalities involving pedestrians and other vulnerable road users in the Metro Louisville area. And earlier this year, we issued the 2022 Complete Streets, Roads, and Highways Manual. One of its basic tenets is the need to protect vulnerable road users. Streets and roads historically, of course, as you all know, were designed around cars and trucks. Other users, from buses to bicycles, had to find ways to fit in. And it wasn't always and hasn't been a good fit. But today, our transportation planners and designers approach the task holistically, taking into account the needs of all users. So we've made it personal. From having been mayor, I know what this represents in a very immediate sense. And that's why I've made a personal commitment to complete streets and to safety. We are fortunate that at the highest level at the Department of Transportation, Secretary Pete Buttigieg initiated a similar approach from the federal Department of Transportation and federal highways. So we will be working with local leaders in the Louisville area on ways to enhance safety in your and on your road system. I said I was going to talk a bit about the expanded role of the cabinet, and I will do that now. The expanded role in the last couple of years has meant, in some respects, that the transportation cabinet is not only the transportation cabinet, but the transportation and disaster recovery cabinet. Y'all excuse me, I've got a bit of a winter cold today, but I'm not around anybody, so we're in good shape there. It's better that I'm here and not there with you all. Well, on this, so we've had the tornado recovery the end of last year in Western Kentucky. We've had the flood recovery this year. Senator Jimmy Higdon from Marion County is the chair of the Transportation Committee, of the Senate Transportation Committee in Kentucky. And Senator Higdon said not long ago that the Transportation Cabinet has become the cabinet with the masters of, not an acronym, of course, but a title of the Masters of Disaster. Now, that's not a title that we looked forward to, but what we've found that we were doing here was not just transportation work, not just clearing the streets and the roads and the bridges after these disaster events, We expanded our role to include housing. We brought more than 100 travel trailers to Western Kentucky after the tornado. Immediately after the floods in Eastern Kentucky, we had 80 of those trailers remaining available to us, and they were moved within 2 days to Eastern Kentucky after the floods. Today, we have more than 400 victims of the flood in travel trailers. That's been a role that the cabinet took on. We've also taken on debris removal. So these were not tasks ordinarily in the transportation cabinet, but because of the role that we have as the operations backbone of state government in many respects, we took on these roles. So we're seeing that not unexpectedly, we're pulled in a number of directions. But what I'm honored and pleased to report to you all is that because of the project management capabilities of this cabinet, we're able to take on these assignments that would not otherwise perhaps be expected. We inspected more than 1,000 bridges after the floods within 2 weeks. And of those 1,000 bridges, 166 are needing repair or complete replacement, and we've already contracted for up to 40 of those. So that's where we are there. Now I want to talk about quickly, and I'll close up. Any questions? Happy to take them, Andy. But electric vehicles, just like every transportation cabinet in the country, we're focused through the bipartisan infrastructure law on electric vehicle charging stations. We anticipate to have on our interstates and our parkways, our first phase, we anticipate having as many as 32 stations within the next 2 years installed. And that comes out of the funding. That's a result of the funding, roughly $86 million in federal funding and matching funds that Kentucky has committed to electric vehicle charging. As you know, Kentucky is becoming the electric vehicle battery capital of the nation, of the country, and we want to keep up with it by doing the best we can in that respect, in the respect of having stations every 50 miles is the federal requirement, and no further than 1 mile off the parkway or the interstate. So let me speak finally to our driver's licensing initiative. Again, this was something that was stood up almost like a startup company. Today, we have more than 200 employees in our driver's licensing stations around our driver's licensing offices around the state. And this is where we are issuing both real IDs and driver's licensing. Today, under this new system, more than 260,000 people statewide have been able to get their driver's license online. This is super important, of course. And just think about it, 260,000 have been able to get their driver's license online. We're looking at ways to improve customer service and keeping an eye out for locations that can better serve the public. We hope to have some news on that in the near future. But what we are very proud of is that within a very short span of time, we have transformed a system and stood it up with new employees and very effectively. Now, is there going to be, we're going to get pushback? Of course, there's going to be pushback. Are there going to be challenges? Of course, there's going to be challenges. But I can speak from the point of view of someone being in the private sector and the public sector and say that these folks are doing some really, really commendable work. And it's really, of course, as you all know, it's really great to get a call every now and then, or an email or a letter from someone saying that they had a great experience. Now, finally, our big projects that we're working on, our major projects, the I-69 in I-69 crossing between Henderson, Evansville, the Brent Spence Bridge between, of course, Covington and Cincinnati, and the completion of the Mountain Parkway. Those are the major projects that Governor Beshear's priorities. And that's what he asked me to focus on when he first asked me to participate in the administration and do this job. That's about it, Andy. Happy to take any questions. I said I was going to go to 5 to 7 minutes, and I think I extended that by 3 or 4 according to my clock here. But I hope it wasn't too bad. Too bad.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Secretary Gray. Does anybody in the room have any questions? With that, I just want to extend Kiptus thanks for joining us today and for continued partnership with District 5 Central Office. And again, thanks again.
Thank you, sir. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Thanks for all y'all's hard work.
All right, thank you, Secretary. Go on with the agenda here now, and we're up to the item number 4, public comment period. Greg is going to let us know if anybody submitted any public.
Yes, we did have one public comment. Fortunately, Secretary Gray just dropped off, but we'll make sure we get into these comments because they are kind of surrounding around him. It just says, I'm emailing to submit the following comments for the November 22nd TPC meeting. I understand that Jim Gray will be in attendance at today's TPC meeting. I want to thank him for his efforts to date on making Kentucky's roadways safer, particularly for more vulnerable road users, people walking, biking, or taking a bus. I've been involved in the project to make Town Road in Louisville more walkable and greener, and am so very encouraged and thankful for this project. I encourage Secretary Gray to continue this type of work, not only in Louisville, but across the state. Many Kentuckians want to be able to walk and bike to get around, but they don't because it's just not safe. Cities around the country show us that if we just create space on the road for people to bike and walk where they feel safe, then they will choose to bike and walk over taking a car. I ask that you aggressively pursue projects that provide safe, separate bike lanes on state roads. Please pursue projects that reduce vehicle miles traveled and reduce carbon emissions. Please do not widen any more roads to accommodate more travel lanes. I'm encouraged by the Complete Streets manual that just came out. I do worry that many of the scheduled paving across state roads will not actually see these Complete Streets principles go into place. Why do I have doubts? Because I understand there is a lack of assigned project managers / design staff and lack of supplemental funding for flex posts, signal changes, etc., that are required to implement changes to road design in accordance with the Complete Streets manual. Additionally, I would love to see changes to the district's scoring to prioritize safer, lower carbon transportation projects like bike lanes and sidewalks, and to deprioritize any highway or road expansion project. Thanks for your efforts to make Kentucky roads safer and to fight climate change by reducing emissions related to transportation. From Jackie Cobb. That is the only public comment that we did receive prior to the meeting. I did not see any in the Q&A either.
All right, thank you, Greg. I will have you go forward now, and was there any public involvement you'd like to discuss?
Yes. Real quick here. To go through the numbers real quick, as expected, we did see a nice little boost again from last month with in social media. Facebook post, we back up over 2,000 impressions, 211 engagements. Twitter also saw a decent bump in over 2,300 impressions. And again, Instagram continues to climb. That's a solid thing. Another thing I wanted to note that our main transportation page had almost 300 visitors this month. Since I've been here, we finished top 5 for agency-wide in visitors. That's the first time I've seen that since we've been here. So that is a great thing that we're happy to see for this month. I apologize. It looks like I had an issue with saving my presentation that I was working on. Stop sharing real quick for a second. Able to actually pull up the report. Oh, there it is. Gosh, I apologize. Pull the book over here. I can actually use the numbers from it. It's in here. Okay, I apologize for that. Public comments, we did receive several. We went to Univille Sustainability comments from there. One of them was, I like to ride my bike around campus, needed to be safer for bikes surrounding the campus. Another person would like to see maps at the bus stations, and another person asked for a bus route in Hillview and Blue Lick. Final comment came from that they would love to ride my bike to work or to downtown functions on the weekends, but I'm not sure if there are safer routes to do so. Are there up-to-date maps available? Are there plans to create safe connected paths? As I said, we also were a participating sponsor for the Louisville Earth Walk this year. And we also went to Papa John's Health Fair as well as Sustainability Day at University of Louisville. That wraps up this month's report. If there are no questions.
Any questions for Greg this morning? All right, thank you, Greg. Item number 6 is planning assumptions. Staff will present a variety of planning assumptions that they're used to as part of the ongoing update to the Connecting Kentuckiana 250 MPT plan.
Thank you, Judge. As I believe everybody's aware, we are updating the MTP, the long-range plan, with a tentative date of the spring of bringing that around. Updates to the various pieces of census and purchased business data that we use, as well as a handful of other updates. I'm happy to take any questions on that. If anybody has it, we are asking for approval of the update to the planning assumptions today. If I recall correctly, TTCC did recommend that.
Second. Moving second, do we approve the planning assumptions presented? Are there any questions? Comments?
If I could just make one comment, and I have no objection to any planning assumptions, but I might just make this comment that given how much has changed in our travel patterns and the sort of disruption that we have seen with, I don't dare even want to say COVID, but I just think it is important that we consider look at different scenarios that, the more that we continue to base things on trend and just forecasting out. I know that, my husband is a travel modeler, so I'm very well aware of the details of it, but I just some consideration when, we have to make these planning assumptions, but I think looking at things from different perspectives will help make better plans in the future.
Yeah,
So no critique, just a comment.
Yeah, so our staff, from a staff perspective, we're coordinating this long-range plan update. For our modeling, many of these are associated with, we need a base year for our model, right? In our base year, we for years, we expected 2020 to be our base year where our model matches conditions on the ground, and that, well, that kind of backfired, right? And so we're going to a 2019 base year is what our new model will be based on. But that's very top of mind that, hey, that 2019 base year, for a lot of the reasons you mentioned, doesn't have a whole lot of life to give. The new trends, new workplace issues, that's something that we're going to have to tackle in the coming years. Some of it's still pending Census Bureau data that we don't have for the urbanized area and otherwise. That's something that we're going to have to probably update sooner than usual or pay closer attention to sooner in the next update process for certain.
Thank you.
All right, did we approve these? I think we had a motion and second, we didn't have to take a vote yet. All in favor, please say aye. Anyone opposed? Now, Spencer will talk about the planning assumptions, is that right? Well, performance measures. Excuse me. Go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. So I'm here to talk about the performance measures, baselines, and targets for the Kentuckiana 2050 NTP update. All right, so this is basically just, we created the baselines and targets for the performance measures that you guys approved in January. The baselines were set either based on federal requirements or NPO created requirements, and these will also go into the performance management plan. All of the federally required measures are highlighted in blue in your packet, and all the NPO measures are just white. We're gonna run through some of these pretty quick. If I can get the PowerPoint to go to the next slide. All right, so the first goal was safety. There were 4 objectives, and all of these are federally required performance measures. So we set the baselines and targets as prescribed by either FHWA or FTA. So you'll see those down there. The objective A and B performance measures are required by FHWA, and the objective C performance measures are required by FTA, and those come from TARC's PPAS.
These on the screen right here, these were approved by TPC back in February. Right here.
Technical difficulties. And then this is just the transit safety measures. The second goal is sustainability. These are the objective A are NPO created measures. We basically projected to have an increase in the number of pedestrian and bike facilities along transit routes and a decrease in the gaps in the pedestrian and bike network. And then on the next slide, and then at the bottom of the sustainability portion of your package, you'll see all the federal performance measures at the bottom come from our CMAQ performance plan that you guys approved in August, that Jeremy brought to you all. And then the electric vehicle increase in the fleet mix. So projecting out 4 years and then to 2050. Next, we have equity. These are NPO created performance measures, basically just continuing the trends from above, having an increase into these transit, walking, biking, teleworking, carpool and vanpool, and transit, and increasing the EJ population within a quarter mile of transit routes and bicycle lanes. Number 4, these are the economic goals. The top one is a federal performance measure from FHWA. It is the level of travel time reliability on interstates and non-interstate national highway system. And then we have the NPO created measures on objective B and objective C, which we worked with. We showed to TARC after TTCC. That was the one performance measure that wasn't 100% finished. So we finished that one right after the meeting and got to share that with TARC. Basically calculating the headway and then showing a decrease in 4 years and in for the 2050 target as well. And then increasing the number of jobs within a quarter mile of bus sidewalks and a mile bike ride of bike facilities. For number 5, we have the roadway system goal. So the top, we have the top 2, objective A, objective B, are federal performance measures. They're the same as on number 4 because it supports 2 different goals and 3 different objectives. It's that level of travel time reliability on interstate and non-interstate national highway system. And then the annual regional vehicle miles traveled per capita, showing that decreasing in 4 years and by 2050, and the number of electric vehicle charging stations increasing in 4 years and by 2050. Next, we have transit. There are 3 objectives there. These are all integrated measures. We have the baseline 40 target and 2050 target for TARC's fixed route ridership. So we have that increasing. We worked with TARC on this one as well after TC 2 weeks ago. So we show that coming back to its pre-pandemic level and then increasing by 2050. And then the population in the transit area increasing over time as well. And then the number of schools having a small increase in 4 years and by 2050. And the number of employees served in the transit service area, which is within a quarter mile of each route, increasing as well. And then the number of rideshare trips. And this one only for the Every Commuter Count program. So increasing the number of annual trips in 4 years and by 2050. So that's a 20% annual increase in 4 years, and then a 200% increase from there by 2050. 7th goal is active transportation. Alrighty, the goals of active transportation. There are 4 objectives here, 4 performance measures, showing, basically continuing the trend from all the other goals and objectives and performance measures, increasing the number of miles of pedestrian facilities, increasing the number of miles of bike facilities, and then borrowing that one from the second goal, I'm sorry, the number of miles of pedestrian facilities along transit routes and bike paths along transit routes. Number 8 is freight. This one is a federally required performance measure. It is the truck travel time reliability. So that one we show staying, keeping the same level of reliability in 4 years. And then the last one is resiliency. So you have a lot of federally required measures and a couple NPO measures. The federally required measures are at the top for objective A, or from FHWA. It is the percent payments in good and poor condition on interstates and the percent good and poor on the non-interstate national highway system. So basically decreasing the poor condition roads, increasing the good condition interstates. And then we have percent of deck area in good condition and percent of deck area in poor condition on bridges in the national highway system. And then we actually have an NPO measure on this one as well, since the national bridge inventory contains all the bridges in our area and pretty much all the bridges in the whole United States. We can also get collector roads and above and see if the condition that's good, see what the condition that's good is, plan for an increase on the good condition ones, and hope that the poor condition roads or bridges, go down. And we have a couple FTA required measures from TARC's TAM plan at the bottom. Those are the non-revenue and revenue vehicles exceeding useful life benchmark, and the fixed route system reliability and paratransit system reliability. And then there are 2 performance measures in red. We're also going to recommend or request that those 2 be removed, because we can't, it's very difficult and I'll defer to Andy for specifics on this one, but it's very difficult to determine borderline condition on pavements on interstates and non-interstate highways.
That's right, the two in red on, goal number 9 or 6, those were previously MPO developed measures. The construct that is borderline pavement condition, that was literally something that we came up with. Our goal at that time was the Federal Highway Administration created a new system that had good, fair, and poor. Our thought was borderline on the pavements that are getting ready to go from fair to poor. Okay. The reason why we are removing this, we're proposing to remove this one, not because we don't care about pavement, we care more now than we used to. However, these measures collectively have an inconsistent and incomplete data set. That is, we have the data at our fingertips for only the state-owned roads here. A good chunk of our roads in our region, as we all know, are not state-owned roads. And so unless and until we have something that can crosswalk there for the pavements on your all city county roads, we're at a loss here to get some good data here. So we have chosen, we have opted to support the state's targets in this case. Previously, we had come up with our own regional targets. That is contrary to several of the others that Spencer already mentioned. Many of the travel time reliability ones, among a few others, we previously supported the state's targets. We're taking that on. We have new tools at our fingertips now that we can use something called the RITIS platform that Federal Highways or Regional Army University of Maryland, if I'm not mistaken. That allows us to assess those things so much easier than it did in the past. Previously, we were unable to calculate those efficiently, so now we can. So again, we didn't cross them out because we don't care. Care more now than ever. It's just a matter of circumstance.
That's everything I have for the PowerPoint. Action is requested to adopt the Connecting Kentucky and 2050 performance measures based on some targets and remove the two CK 2050 performance measures, borderline pavement condition on interstate and non-interstate national highway system.
Okay, is there a motion here?
Second.
Comments? I'd like to ask a question on this. Heard the word bike lanes quite a bit. Heard the word equity. Most of the people in the region, most of these counties are non-metropolitan. Can't speak for anyone else, but we have no bike lanes in Oakland County. Can't imagine how we're going to ever have any, or Henry County, or these county highways that we have going through here, state highways, take a lot of money to widen any of these, and put any kind of bike lane or even sidewalks. We're getting sidewalks here and there a little bit, but doesn't amount to a whole lot. What's the plan for us out here? You talk about equity. Where's our equity? If this is all metropolitan oriented, what about us?
Keep in mind, it's not just bike lanes on the roads, it's bike facilities, so including the multi-use trails and paths, of which Oldham County certainly has some. You're right. There's not a whole, the number of miles is relatively few, so it's and it's context sensitive. As part of our complete streets dialogue that we had a few months ago, that it's context sensitive where these things either happen at all, but probably happen first in the density and the land use surrounding that. It's a challenge. There's no denying that. And what's right for Oldham County, it's not right for Henry County. What's not right for Little Metro.
The surrounding counties all share the same issues, probably. And we have people riding bikes out here on our county highways, but we're scared to death to come up someplace. We don't want to hurt anyone. Getting around people is a challenge for a lot of people. Some discomfort passing people, hurt them or anything, but then we're undulating property, so can't always see very far ahead. There's another curve or a dip or something coming up all the time. But okay, that's a cheap shot. But, anyway. Okay, well, we got a motion second. Any more comments on this?
I wanted to kind of follow on to your comment, because I do think it's important to understand, and the way that I am understanding these targets is that these targets and the metrics associated with them are intended to help guide decision-making, not necessarily to dictate programmatic funding. I mean, maybe they could, but it is a way for us to measure how we're doing or how we're not with the progress we're making or not.
Precisely, yeah,
Okay.
so the idea is to, in a perfect world, we maintain these for many, many years, exactly as they are here, and we update everybody and say, here's what we're doing well, here's what we're doing poorly, we're improving there, we're taking a hit there, let's make that a part of the conversation. For funding, without question, for dedicated funding, and they can talk about it a little bit later, it pretty well directly translates to that, or it could. The issue is, in many cases, the bridge project, for example, we have some number of 4 bridges, and those would be approved for dedicated funding. Well, every year, every free stall cycle, every season, those bridges are, get in disrepair without some DLC that they need to do. So it's, and some of these, by the way, any of these measures or many of these rates, they reflect things. For example, the travel time and reliability. It might be tough to maintain the level of reliability that we have right now as we grow population, as capacity is either not expanded or is, but as we go through extended construction periods of Sherman Bridge and the IMU project, notably, the states and their targets, of which there are for all movements that are federal highways, they recognize that. NDOT in particular, they made a big point of note that to set a 4-year travel time reliability when you have major interstate construction projects in your region, that's a bit of a challenge. So maintaining status quo is actually doing the work. We can agree with that.
Yeah, I know a few of theirs, they actually looked at it before years and said it was going to decrease. I think it was right. All the construction projects across the state, their statewide target actually went down because they're trying to accurately predict it. Like, we recognize that it will go down.
Another goal of our staff in this case, and it's been true for the last 5 years or so, is the idea that, to the judge's point, when the states create their targets, we deal in 2 rural states here, right? And this is an urban area, this is an urban island in 2 rural states. And so a lot of these things, the bike and ped issues, the travel time or the congestion issues, these are urban phenomena. And so to support the states, what are we doing in certain ways, right? Because we have to deal with urban problems in the urban areas, and say nothing about the state targets. It's just that congestion in rural Kentucky and Indiana is not a major concern. It hasn't been for. Yes, sir. Mr. Gold.
Pedestrian fatalities are particularly a product of an urbanized area, which the MPO is an urbanized area. I know that decisions were made when we built Dixie Highway and didn't add sidewalks because they didn't see any pedestrians. But then as these areas build up and the demand as we get more pedestrians that walk along our street, and this is often a very vulnerable part of our community, the fatalities start coming up. Right now, if you look at Jefferson County, excluding the interstates, it's nearly 1 out of 3 of our roadway fatalities outside of the interstate is pedestrians. So I know that you have constraints, but for us to add sidewalks back to Dixie Highway after things built up around it was extremely expensive. So as those projects advance, at least grab enough right of way so that you have the room to add those sidewalks with development and don't have to try to pinch it in later. And you will have a better system for the future as you continue to grow in Oldham County and Bullitt County. So don't look at what it is today, but think about what it looks like in the future.
Thank you.
A good comment. Thank you. All right, we've got a motion and a second. On any further comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is the dedicated funding programs for the MPO, and Nick is going to discuss
So last month, I brought you guys our quarterly NPO dedicated project updates. NPO dedicated funds are those which NDOT and KYTC have sub-allocated those funds directly to this CPC body for award to projects. So we brought those cost increases and phase shifts to you last month. There was two that came in from the University of Louisville after TPC last month, so I'm bringing those to you all. They are for an existing project that was awarded funds through the 2020 call for projects. University of Louisville is doing a safety pedestrian focused improvement project in and around 2nd Street, 3rd Street, and Museum Drive. They're planning to close off West Brandeis from 3rd and 4th Street. And to do all of that, they needed a little additional funding for design. So the request was for $225,000 federal and increased construction costs, which we are seeing across the board with almost every project, significant cost increases due to inflation and materials costs. So the construction increase request is for $1,310,000. We do have the funds to cover both of these requests. And so my action states to request approval of these cost increases from the University of Louisville.
All right, we have a motion to approve this. Is there a second? I vote.
It's hard to do that as a UK fan.
Moved and seconded that we pay for these changes here. So, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Opposition? Now, Alex, back to the active transportation.
Thank you, Judge. So as I believe everybody will recall, we this summer completed the first MPO Complete Streets policy. And as the Complete Streets Working Group had, as I understand it, intended, there's going to be a second phase that we'd like to get started in the beginning of 2023, which is the active transportation plan. As this was envisioned by staff of the working group, the active transportation plan really serves as a resource for local governments to identify strengths and gaps in the existing bike and ped network, provide best practice resources, and assist with the prioritization of any future bike and ped projects. This is something that's already in existence, being developed by a lot of our peer agencies around the country, and definitely seen increasingly as an important best practice by US DOT. So to ensure that an active transportation plan really takes into account the needs of individual jurisdictions, wanted to be another working group to really help guide staff on this process. We are anticipating that the working group will meet twice, maybe 3 times over 2023, sort of an initial meeting to brief everybody on the process, take guidance, maybe a working meeting or 2 in the middle, and then a final meeting to really approve that plan. So we briefed TTCC in a little bit more detail on this. We've got some volunteers already for this working group. We've got Louisville Metro, TARC, I know J-Town, Matt Munay volunteered. We very much would like to have an Indiana representative on the working group, so I'll throw that out there right now for any part on the Ohio River. And I'm happy to take any questions, just informational item action prior today.
All right, thank you. Volunteers on the north side of the road. We only have one person from the north side of the river here today.
No way.
All right, he's already overloaded. All right, thank you. Greg is going to come back now. Public transportation annual report.
Feel for you all just help out, but just to go through what we've done for the year. This is part of our participation plan, just to give you guys a kind of a snapshot of what we do and let you all provide any feedback that you all want to see. Of course, that's not that. There we go. Apologize. Okay, kicked off the year with our update to our participation plan in February of 22. That it has language in it now to include social media strategy. We also have language on more digestible for the public to kind of understand, including just break down the charts, how we engage, where we engage, what they can expect from us as we go through the year. So that was a much needed update, even though it was kind of early, but we wanted to kind of do that ahead of the FCR, our certification reviews that was up. So that was that's on the website now, and that's out there. Part of that, like this, these annual reports, those type of things. Engagement wise, we went to almost 15 community events this year. Since COVID has kind of relaxed a little bit, we were able to get back out to the public. That was something we were excited to do. That helps connect the digital divide a little bit. Biggest things with people that don't have access to online computer or websites, those things that when we do our online engagement, we're able to get out in the public, kind of prove who we are, and get their feedback. As you see in my reports, when I give these public comments that we're able to receive from the public out there. Almost half of them in environmental justice areas, as I mentioned, the digital divide. We've received almost 40 comments from those events and social media, and we continue to participate monthly in outreach meetings and work groups with Middletown Chamber of Commerce, Global Health Advisory Board, and the Global Metro. What kind of do we hear? Biggest things from those comments you can see is safety, infrastructure, hiking. Those are the kind of things that we needed, that we heard mostly for. People wanted to feel safe on the road, and they wanted to be able to have connectivity. So that's the biggest things. And I think hopefully the committee can take away today that the public we hear from out there. Getting into the data a little bit. When I started this role 2.5 years ago, my goal was to increase our online presence. Our social media from the information standpoint was not great. And really, that's how people hear information now. They are going to get it from their phones. They're not going to get it from just anywhere but online. And so we really wanted to increase our social media on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. We've done a nice job of that. As you can see, this is through the month with the impressions and engagements. Just a quick reminder, impression, it simply got on their feed as people were scrolling through, they saw the post. And engagement is they actually clicked on something. So they either clicked on a link that was in the post or a photo, something like that. You see, we had a really good start to the year. March was our best month. Obviously, we had some paid advertising in that, which did help boost those numbers. And then we had a little bit of a dip here toward the end of the year, but still good numbers, still averaging roughly between 2,000 and 4,000 impressions, which is great. Dropped off in September, which we expected, just because of the NPO conference. We were a little busy, weren't online as much as able, but we bounced back in October. Twitter, same thing. You see, May was our best month, impression wise. Again, a nice little started off month solid. The biggest things with Twitter is we didn't do any kind of paid advertising. So all those numbers there just came from organic, which is sharing, especially from our partners. It's the biggest things I encourage you. You all have social media people, or you all have your things, share our stuff, because that helps us get our work out there big time. And KYTC is great about doing that. They always share our stuff when we're looking for engagement. Middletown Chamber of Commerce is also very good about sharing stuff as well. But that's one thing I definitely encourage anybody to do. We try to do the same thing with us. We try to do reciprocal. We'll share your all stuff if you're all looking for things to try to get it out. The wider we cast that net, the better the audience. And Instagram, as you can see here, it started kind of low and then went up. In July, I created a Linktree account because we were having an issue trying to engage on Instagram with our links. It's not clickable on Instagram. So I created this Linktree, which is, and so in the post, it'll say, go to our link in bio. So they're able to go in and then click into that link and then drive it. Since we've done that, we've seen the engagement go up on Instagram, which is great. We're hoping to continue those numbers in the next year. Other notable outreach, as you see here, we're committed to committee meetings on Zoom. We also do them over YouTube, public comments. We have them all on our website. So anytime we get public comments in for our amendments or any of our stuff like that with outreach, those are all on there. And we also continue our public comment application tool. That's that mapping tool that allows people to pinpoint exact concerns and leave those concerns on there. That's all on our website. You can get there through Commitee.backslash-transportation. Other outreach, we continue our 2015 transportation plan update. We have a webpage dedicated to that. And that wraps it up. I'll take any questions, comments. Like I said, this is your opportunity to give me any kind of feedback or anything that you would like to see maybe that we don't do, or things that we want to assist to do better. So I'll take anything that has any.
I did see a TV commercial. That was just for the area agency on aging?
Yes, that's on set. So that's not with our department. Precisely. That is with behind you all, right?
No.
Social services.
Okay.
Greg, I appreciate what you're doing there on the internet, and but I'm 75 years old. Okay, I'm active in day-to-day life, but I think some people who are, let's say, not as active, and maybe aren't on that internet as much, or they don't understand about it, or whatever. I think so. The skew of who's responding is probably younger mix versus older mix, but why I'd suggest that I like the public outreach, going out and getting things. One thing you might consider, there are groups that stay, regional and local groups that have meetings at the Gold House, or you could set up a booth and actually talk to people when they come past. You don't have to be a guest speaker. You can just be there with a display. And I think you get comments from local people that way that you might not get on the internet from at least older people.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. That's things we do throughout the year. Obviously with COVID, we weren't doing as many because those events just weren't happening. Now they've kind of started back again. We try to take advantage. Those happen mostly on the weekend. But yes, table events like that. And I said, that's a great way to kind of get away from the digital divide. There's a lot of people either that are older and don't do the internet, or just don't have access to the internet. And so that's the biggest thing we're trying to kind of close that digital divide a little bit.
Or like the small picnics they have at churches around, set up there. It might be hundreds of people walk by you. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item will be the Safe Streets for All grants update of Alex.
Thank you, Judge. So just an update on the Safe Streets and Roads for All regional collaborative effort that we've been engaged in. Grant opportunity is a new one from USDOT. We've talked about this a lot over the last few months. We've put together a regional application that was submitted on September 15th. We expect to hear back in late January. Just as a quick review, the Safe Streets for All, there were two stages of this grant. There was an action planning process and an implementation process. Action planning, basically identifying your biggest safety hotspots and what you potentially do about them using USDOT proven safety countermeasures. The implementation plan being the funding to then implement a set action plan. We put together 16 regional jurisdictions had come on the CRIPTA application. We, as I said, we'll find out in late January. We, 2 weeks ago, held our first organizational meeting. We don't know, obviously, at this point, if we are going to get the grant, but we did want to be ready and prepared if we do. So we held that organizational meeting to talk about expectations, sort of what we can and potentially can't do, what products to expect, and what a calendar might look like. Our hope is that if we do get the grant, we'll be able to relatively quickly get an RFQ out in the streets. We can get a consulting and engineering team on board as soon as possible. And we will update everybody as we learn more about that. And if the word is good, then hopefully what that calendar will look like as we get closer. Just an informational item, no action needed, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Anyone? All right, thank you, appreciate it. Next item from Andy here is going to be the update of the.
Sure. Some of you will recall, back this summer, we did our certification commission for that matter. We got two what are called corrective actions. Corrective actions are those things that we got to fix that the USDOT says to fix. One of them is to properly account for total project costs in our tip. And they said, make sure you do that in your next tip update. Our next tip update will be here in the next several months, and so we'll do that. The other one was regarding something called the planning memorandum of agreement. Planning memorandum of agreement is kind of like a bylaws, kind of like a charter, kind of like some of those things I'm sure you all have with your agencies. This one in particular is between KIPTA, KYTC, NDOT, and TARP. It's exclusive to those four agencies, and it basically says our four agencies will do through a variety of processes. Basically, it defines the transportation planning process in this region pretty well. The comments from USDOT staff in that certification review wasn't, I want to be clear about this, it wasn't that our MOA wasn't any good and it didn't have good stuff in it. It was simply that it was kind of old, okay? And it was last signed by all the in late 2015, and so it's 7 years old. And basically, they said make sure you update it. Make sure you take out the references to MAP 21 was the federal infrastructure bill at the time. Either get the new bill in there or just take it out and make it generic is what they suggested to us. So I think we'll do that. So that'll make our next one have more life on it than this current one does. I don't have any action today, but I just wanted to point that out, that I would like to get those signatures probably by the end of the year. And then that would point us toward a January TPC approval of that. So I'll be reaching out to the powers that be to say, here's the changes that we're making. You should expect me to say something to the effect of the changes are relatively minor and here's what they are, and we'll move forward, expeditiously. So.
Funding. And so we received almost 460 plus projects that have been submitted either by sponsors for new projects or for existing projects. Staff took that burden on. So over 400 projects. We've still got a few left to go. Most every jurisdiction submitted their information by the October 31st deadline. There was a few folks who needed to follow up with, and I think we've been doing that. And I think we are coming to a place where we're wrapping up in terms of having all of the, scroll back once.
have approved in the past. Simultaneously, we'll be turning over updated project information to our air quality folks, Jeremy and Randy, who will be working with the Air Pollution Control District to perform our air quality conformity process. So GIS evaluation and mapping and air quality conformity will kind of be going on simultaneously. And hopefully, I think obviously we're shooting for, spring approval of all of that, but we're a little bit behind right now, but hopefully we can catch up in this next month or so. That's all I have for project development. On the call for project side of things, the NPO dedicated application cycle closed on October 31st. However, there were a few sponsors that we heard from that were a little bit confused about things, so we extended that deadline out to, I think it was Monday, the 14th of last week. So we did receive a few more applications. In Indiana, we received a total of 11 applications totaling $6 million in federal funds that are being requested. We have $21 million. We'll still need a working group to convene to evaluate those projects, make a recommendation to our committees, including this body. Likewise, in Kentucky, we received 51 applications. It's a little bit misleading. There's a lot of existing projects from Louisville Metro that don't have future phases like construction phases that are programmed. So they're requesting those. But you can see there was a huge need. $142 million worth of applications were submitted, and there's about $78 million available. So again, we'll have a working group, and my plan is to convene that working group in January, once staff has been able to evaluate all those projects and provide some metrics on how they perform relative to our performance measures and goals and objectives. So that's where things stand right now. I can take any comments or questions that anyone may have. All right, thank you all.
All right, thank you. Now we'll have the Andy here with the Kentucky Indiana Transportation Excellence Award.
Thank you, sir.
This award this year.
Greg is going to help me out on this here in a second. We'll get through these. Always fun with technical difficulties. Kentucky Indiana Transportation Excellence Award. That's an award that many of y'all are familiar with. We've had for I think this is our 8th year. We started in 2015, and this is one more iteration of the Kite Award, the 2022 Kite Award. So we say it's awarded to a project that soars above all other projects. This year, we only had 3 nominees. So perhaps make a note. Let's find more projects next year and get a good chance. The 3 nominees this year. One was from Clark County. That's their Bethany Road project that's recently been completed. It was a nice little project that improved sight distances, shoulders, etc. Nice little project over there in Clark County, Indiana. Transportation Cabinet nominated 2 projects. One is Kentucky 155 at South Pope Lick. That's an interesting project in as much as it's a confluence of the Parklands of Floyd's Fork. I think the so-called 100-mile loop goes right there. The intersection is in a bridge, and so it's got its own issues. So it's a really important project, and tremendous amount of traffic is moving through that intersection. That's basically the way in and out of Spencer County from G. Snyder. Third was Kentucky 53 at I-71, the southbound ramps, and some improvements to Kentucky. Is going to go to C and 53 at I-71 southbound project. So with that, Greg, would you like to maybe present the word to Mr. Bolton?
Yes, absolutely. Congratulations.
And with that, that's the conclusion of that report.
Some of our neighbors, thank you, getting an award here while we're meeting in Oakland County was a fixed deal, I don't know, but, thank you. All right, Greg was kind enough to say that all technical difficulties today were completely his. I'm happy to say that since, we're winding this up, it wasn't our internet. We do have internet service here, but we don't have it everywhere in the county. And so Oldham County Fiscal Court and AT&T have entered into a $33 million agreement to provide high-speed access to everyone in Oldham County in March of 2024. It will go by your house, and you can stick with the spectrum if you want to do so. But if you go to the Old County AT&T project, and you'd have a minimum of 500 whatever up and 500 down. It'd be you can actually get more than that, a gigabyte or more if you'd like to have it. So the fiscal court has put in $8.5 million and AT&T $25 million to this project to fruition. So we're happy to have that happen here. And I'm just kidding about is there any other business to attend to today here?
One thing I want to mention is you may know a new KIPTA staff member in the room. Just after the TPC meeting last month, KIPTA hired Ms. Chris Nicholas, who's back there in the back. Chris Nicholas is a new transportation planner here at KIPTA. She comes to us with a lot of job experience, but most recently with the U.S. Census Bureau. And so Chris has already gotten engaged with some of the project development tasks that Alex and Spencer and Nick are working on as are most of the staff. So she's jumping right in at a fun time. So I hope that you all get to know Chris and reach out to Chris, and you'll be seeing and hearing a lot more from her in the near future. That's all I have.
Okay, before I give up the microphone here, I do want to thank Matt and his team for the I-71-53 project. It was worked on quite a while to get it going because, gas line problems and other things. And there were, John Black in here, but there were hundreds of people that, expressed opinion to John Black and me about how slow that project was. But it was a lot of things happened that were out of everyone's control. But it is a wonderful project now. It's really improved the intersection and helped with congestion there. So we're really thankful for that. Thank you, Matt. Is there a motion to adjourn? Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Motion